So there we go, just about sailing November. I wanted to get another one out in October, but it didn't quite work out that way. I just didn't get around to doing it. And Serenity is a complete tip. I mean, it's anyway. So I looked back over the last sort of year, and just over a year ago I put my plans down, which were to do with sailing into the Mediterranean and stuff like that. And I did say at that point, this is 12% of the plan. So, and I think I've pretty much stuck to 12% because not everything's gone right. Mainly finances to do with things out of my control. I've had to start part-time work again. I haven't actually had any money coming in since February of this year, which hasn't been great, and my independent means of living hasn't quite worked out yet, but it will do. You know, you've got to keep, as long as you're moving in the right direction, you're moving in the right direction, as we all know from sailing. So I've actually written out a list of things. So as you know, anybody who's done project management, project planning, etc., you know that there are kind of three main variables. There's the scope, i.e. what you're trying to do, there's the time scale, how long it will take, and there's the cost. And if you change any one of those, then the other ones change. So, you know, if you take a longer time, you can kind of do it for cheaper. And the longer time thing, I would also add a fourth, but it kind of comes into the longer time, and that's really to do with skill. Certain skills, I'm quite happy fiddling about with engine, changing suspensions on cars. Never have a problem with that. Pipework, electricity, electronics, that's just not an issue. But woodwork, and that's the next thing I've got to do, is both to start varnishing and also doing some. That really is just a big challenge for me. So I'm going to show one short project where I need to take the washboards out and revarnish them. And I thought, well, I'm actually going to make a pair of washboards just really quickly, just to see if I can do it, and put them in just as a sort of temporary stopgap measure. So we will have a look at that shortly. So here are my measurements for the washboards, and for most people this will be a trivial job, but I am really not very good at woodworking, so I want to practice, because there are other things I want to do, like making drawers, sorting out the kitchen and so on. So I need to get a little bit of practice on that. So this is the first one. So this is definitely not DIY. This is literally just so you can laugh at this idiot who is making a hash of trying to do something, and I'm not even trying to do it properly, so we'll see. Right, so obviously the first thing to do is to draw some lines on the wood, which I don't know if you can see now. So I've just drawn the first two cuts, and then to line things up so that when I do the cut it's going to be nice and straight. Just clamp down. Sorry, this might be basic to most people, but this is rocket surgery as far as I'm concerned. You might have seen the slight jumps there, and that's literally because I had a paint's worth of thickness between the bottom of the blade and this, but I thought it was worth taking the risk, and look at that, just snatched the paint off a little bit. But anyway, I'll call that a success. Well, I can't call it anything I want really, can I? But that, for me, that was a success, and hopefully that's relatively okay. Right, so that's the large sheet of wood, and it's a smaller one, and they actually butt up quite nicely, and then there's a gap to be filled there, but obviously I need to check. Right, let's just measure this, put these two together. That should be 74.6 all together. And it's about 74.6 and a half, 74 point, oh well, close enough. So we need to measure this piece up and cut it out. Right, so what I now have is a piece of wood the size I would have wanted to start with in the first place, and that's the bit left over. So it kind of, I did have enough wood, it's just not the right shape. Right, so it did get a bit not warm enough out there, so I've moved inside with plenty of sheet on the floor, and basically I'm just going to epoxy a butt joint up onto there. I'm going to wet this out first, mix up some filler, and then take it from there. Alright, a thorough mixing of this stuff, so I'm going to wet it out first, which as we all know is key to having success with this stuff. Using a better quality cheap brush this time. And you can get away without doing this, but and some 406. So the consistency of peanut butter-ish. Oh, actually, got some peanut butter in the cupboard. Oh, I didn't need to do this. Joking. So I've mixed this to the consistency of sort of thick peanut butter, and I wanted to try that thing where you put it in a bag and sort of squirt it out like doing icing sugar, but I haven't got any bags. I thought I had some. So anyway, I only need to do this on one side, obviously. Stuff is so easy to work with. If woodwork would have been like this when I was at school, I might have actually enjoyed it. Which I didn't, by the way. I didn't enjoy woodwork at school. Right, so that's a million miles from perfect, because there is a little bit of an edge sticking up here, but if I was doing this properly I would have more clamps to kind of clamp it down, or weights to put on that to push this down, but that will actually do. By the way, sharp-eyed of you might notice La Vierge towel that came with Serenity when I originally got her, and that's because that used to be her name. There we go. Strip across there. That's into the key there, and we're sorted. Right, so I've managed to borrow steel, a place where I can do my varnishing. It's a bit dusty, I need to dust it up. And it's normally used for sort of flower arranging and things, but I've set this wood up and I'm going to start to do some varnishing. And the nice thing is that apparently I can use this place until I'm discovered. So let's start putting some varnish on. Right, so I'm sure everybody with a YouTube channel has done this. I just did a whole video section, I forgot to press the record button. So what I'm doing is I'm going to try and stick to one type of varnish, and this is International's Compass, which is a high, it's very hard wearing, it's fairly good or very good UV resistance, not as good as the 2-pack obviously. So for the outside I'm going to do this and stick to it. For the inside I'm going to put coats of that and then a final coat or two of the satin on the top of it. I've prepared, what do you call it, a soak-in coat, the one that you put on first to kind of go into the grain, about 30%, 30-40% with number 1 thinners. And I bought these gloves, and these are the ones with dust in, so I'm not doing this carefully. I actually want to see what happens if you do it in a reasonably dusty environment without too much preparation, and see how good this stuff actually is, and that might give me a bit more confidence when I hoover this place out and do it a lot more carefully and so on. So as you can see, I've already put some varnish on here, and you can see it soaking already, and I don't have to be too careful about this, but I'm going to put a couple of coats of this on, and then I'm going to use the full strength stuff. So, surprise, surprise, it fits. That's not too bad given that it's just 2 coats slopped on. I haven't put a handle on it yet, and most importantly I haven't put a ventilation thing on. Ventilation, I want to get a ventilation cowl there, and I thought I might as well reuse whatever I put on here. So there we go. Piece of woodworking that actually worked for me. Not, as I say, not rocket surgery, but it is as far as I'm concerned. And the other thing is I've actually started to write down a list of the things I need to do. Now this probably won't come out particularly well, but I'll kind of show you the list that I've written. And these are broken down into things I need to do to get back in the water, which are essential. Things I need to do to get back in the water, which are nice to have. So these are this is the essential, so I must have. These are the nice to haves. My writing is atrocious, so you probably won't be able to read it. And then I've got the things that are essential for voyaging and things that are nice to have for voyaging. So, for example, hot water, soundproofing, water making, they're not really essential, but they'd be very nice to have. Whereas water tank, holding tank and stuff like that I need to do. Getting the rudder fixed, getting the windows sorted out. Getting the keel checked and all that sort of thing, which I've talked about before, that has to happen. Getting a cooker sorted out, that's kind of a nice to have, because I know what I'm going to go for. I know the diesel heater, the diesel stove, it's combined diesel stove and heater from Wallace. Again, I'll put a picture, gosh, how do I point in the right direction? I'll put one up here and you can see that. So I'm kind of aware that my plans are not going according to plan, but at the same time they're kind of increasing them. So this is the other thing, my scope is increasing. Okay, so in the spirit of plans, I've started to, I'm ripping the kitchen to pieces, the galley to pieces. This stuff is all going to come out at some point. This is horrible. I'm going to convert to a diesel cooker. And the other thing is, I'm not going to have an oven. She sold that because I'm going to convert to a diesel cooker for various reasons, which I might go into later. Which leaves me a bit of space, and I made one of my famous cardboard cutouts. There is room for something that I really want, because the cooker's going to come down to about there, leaving a little space. Something I really want. There is room for it to go there. See if you can guess what that is, and I will show you a photograph very shortly. So yeah, this top is all going to be replaced. This is the fridge part. I've got a particular one lined up, which is quite energy efficient. So this boat is such a mess at the moment. Just look at this. This is just awful. I've taken all the cushions out. Half the head lining's hanging down. Oh well, they say to make an omelette you've got to break some eggs. Well, once you start to break them, you can't put them back in the shell, can you? So, have you figured out what this wonderful thing represents? Of course you have. One of the things I'd really like, but it's very expensive, and it's on my list, is a water maker. And here's my sketch, just to show the dimensions of the Katadyn Power Survivor 40E. I'll show a picture of it just here actually. I particularly like this one because it's small. I think it's an upgrade of the 35, which is a manual one, and it doesn't just produce high pressure, it's actually got a reciprocating pump, which means the pump goes backwards and forwards. So what they can do, so you don't have the massive amount of pressure and the massive amount of energy used, is that the waste water that comes out as part of the process goes back behind the piston. So they use a hydraulic sort of servo system to mean that there's less pressure on it, which is very clever. I was thinking about, could I actually get a 35 and convert it, and then I noticed that they've got, I don't know why I'm showing this because I'm going to have a picture up here. So I noticed I've got this one, very expensive. not in the short term, but the fact is I've actually got a space and it will fit. So look at that, 28-foot with boat with a water maker. I could be completely self-sufficient. Just need to find a food maker now, don't I? So there you go, more plans and things actually done, and I've kind of got to the point of no return now with all the, you know, the bits and pieces that I've taken off, and you know, scary. She looks less like a boat than she has done for a very long time, but that's just the way it goes. You know, you've got to break omelettes to make eggs and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, hopefully get another one out next. So I really want to get the rudder sorted out. Get that, split that. I will dedicate a complete episode to that one. And yeah, that's a bit of a scary job, but I guess the main bit is getting the stainless steel welded. So until next time, I shall see you then. Cheers, bye.